moving on to St. Louis County, all kinds of fun and exciting work. So right now, I'd like to welcome into the live stream. We have Stephanie Leon Streeter. She's the acting director at St. Louis County. Joe Colessa, who's the acting deputy director, and Matt Grundler, who's the construction division manager. So welcome all into the live stream. Stephanie is no stranger. She did one of these presentations at our site expo that was in person last year. So, but this is new for everyone on the live stream. So thank you for joining in. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So I will just start off right away introducing myself with a little more detail so you know what my background is. Again, I'm Stephanie Leon Streeter. I graduated from UMR in 1993 when it was UMR with a Bachelor's of Science and Engineering, and then in 1999 at the University of Kansas with a Master's of Science and Engineering. So I began my career actually at MoDOT up in St. Joe to start, and then in Kansas City across multiple divisions and materials, operations, planning, and also cross-trained in design. And 20 years ago, I came to St. Louis County when at that time it was the Department of Highways and Traffic before it merged with the Department of Public Works. Now we are a merged department. I started as the division manager of planning. I was promoted to the deputy director in 2007 and then appointed acting director last year. And besides transportation, we are also involved in facilities management and code enforcement, property maintenance, and fleet and garage services. So we actually do a number of things. So when we look at 2020, obviously due to COVID, but also due to funding, 2020 was a lighter year for us than in 2019 or 2018. And so I want to take this opportunity, even though it was a lighter year, working with you all in the contracting community, we were able to achieve some good work. We all had to navigate a very difficult path with COVID, and we're still trying to come out of that. But you guys being able to zig and zag when needed, and us working with you in that same way, we were able to achieve some good things. So I appreciate all that you do. So in 2020, we were able to complete $20.9 million of road and bridge work. But as I indicated, and as you saw on the graph, that's $11 million under our 10-year average. That's 39 total projects worked. It was a below average year, but it could have been worse. And thankfully, we weathered 2020. But as I said, besides COVID, some of the things that we're up against is just funding for transportation in general. And so, in case you didn't know, St. Louis County has, over the course of time, invested a lot of time, sweat, tears, and money to build up the transportation system that we have. We have over 3,100 lane miles of road. We have 1,300 miles of sidewalk. We have over 600 signals, nearly 200 bridges. So we have a lot of infrastructure in the field. We value that at $1.78 billion. So it's worth investing. And we're at a point in our process where we're having to do more preservation work. Our operating budget is about $55 million on the transportation side of our house. We would love to have an appropriation level for capital projects at $71 million. And if we did, we'd have $126 million that we bring to the table. And that's just to maintain the status quo. But when you look at the revenue that we have now in the recent past and going forward, we're going to be flat. So we have transportation sales tax, we have gas tax, property tax, franchise fees, and fees from permits and interest on money held that are generally flat. Maybe some are slow to increase, some are slow to decrease, but generally we're flat. Problem with flat funding is nothing else stays flat. So the cost of construction, the cost of doing business goes up. So actually over time, we lose ground. We've also lost ground on the federal project side, not because we don't try and have not been successful in getting federal money, because we've been actually very successful over the course of time. But in order to leverage funding from any source, you need to be able to provide matching funding, and that's where we start to fall off. So over the last 10 years, we've averaged about $194 million we've brought in. So that averages about $19.4 million a year that we get in federal funding. Excuse me. But as you can see, in 2021, we've had to take a deep nosedive away from that figure. So all of those funding sources combined yields about $74.2 million of revenue, which is great. That's nothing to sneeze at. But it, as compared to our needs, is short. And so what we end up doing is the needs don't go away, but instead of appropriating the $71 million that we need to appropriate, our highest year in 2018 was nearly $42 million. But that was the highest year. So we don't appropriate what we need to. Obviously, when you appropriate dollars, that eventually leads to construction activity in the field. And so ergo, when you can't appropriate what you need, you don't do as much as you need to in the field. So what's in store for 2021 for St. Louis County? We do expect to bid about $36 to $47 million of work, which is good. If we hit the high side on $47 million, it'll be about $24 million that goes to our arterial road system projects, about $4 million then for our collectors, $12 million for subdivisions, and $7.2 million for bridges, both on the CRS and ARS side. So we have about then a little bit less than $1 million for signal and miscellaneous work. So when we look at what we're actually intending to do on the ARS projects side, just keep in mind that our ARS work is usually pavement and sidewalk repair, signal upgrades or replacement, ADA improvements such as at our curb ramps, some asphalt resurfacing, and some ITS project installation. So this is one of 2 slides. It's 12 projects in total. The first 3, I want you to take note of. The bid opening is expected spring or summer of 2021. So those are the first out of the gate on the ARS project side. They do not have federal funds, which means they're county funded and they will have MWBE requirements. So that's ARS improvements area A, infrastructure improvements on Midland, and Barrett Parkway area improvements. But you'll see going forward that as the year progresses, there's some federally funded work, DBE requirements apply in those cases, and it's heavy on the resurfacing side because, as I said, we're more of an aged infrastructure and we have to focus on resurfacing primarily. And then on the second slide, you've got Berry and Big Bend intersection, Bayless resurfacing, Dealman infrastructure improvements, Ballast Road resurfacing, and Baxter resurfacing. So definitely pay attention to those prospective bid opening dates.
And please note on all of the ARS projects with federal funding, those dates are very much in question right now due to COVID closing the courts. We have a number of property acquisitions that need to be completed before those projects can be let. And we just had another update yesterday that the courts, we still don't have any information on when the courts are going to open to move those projects forward. So those dates, unfortunately, are probably going to slide back on a number of those projects.
Thanks, Joe. On the collector side, that is pavement and curb repair, it's mill and overlay, it's a curb ramp repair and construction to meet ADA requirements. We have 2 jobs. They are not federally funded. So again, MWBE goals apply. Those bid openings are expected spring of this year. Area B is South County, so that's Suisun Hills Drive, Pottle Avenue, and Keller Road. And then Area C is somewhat south and somewhat west. We have Hannah Road west, and then Valcourt Avenue and Edian Park. And then our bridge and culvert projects, again, span the ARS and CRS system. We're talking about bridge deck replacement and or repair, substructure replacement, ADA improvements, etc. And this is, I believe, 7 projects. And it's a mix. Some are federally funded, some are county funded. The two that are anticipated to have a bid opening earlier in the year versus later are the first two. So MWB Eagles Apply, it's Lockwood Avenue Culvert and Lackland Road Culvert. The other bridge projects fall later in the year and in some cases early 2022, such as Windcrest Drive Bridge. Our subdivision work, we'd love to be able to do some wholesale replacement, again, because some of our subdivisions have been in place for many, many years. But this is more spot concrete replacement, as much as we're able to do and as the requirement presents itself. We also have joint and base repair, sidewalk repairs, some asphalt overlay, more curb ramp work. And so we have 3 areas, C, B, and D. Actually, C had a bid opening already in January, and B and D have bid openings coming very, very quickly. One's March 3rd, and one's March 17th. They're not federally funded, so MWB Eagles Apply. I have the list of subdivisions, but for each one, there's a number of them. So if you want that particular information, ask the question or ask us, post this expo, and we can certainly provide you that information, provided that we're not in any period of solicitation.
Yeah, those are currently in solicitation. So those would be under a cone of silence. So please go and review the packages online and email questions to the authorized contacts.
Okay, thank you, Joe. They came to mind, so that's why I'm glad I said it. Our miscellaneous projects include a pedestrian signal at Music Avenue, bid opening March of 2021, and then guardrail on Baumgartner Road to come later this year. No federal funds, so the MWB Eagles Apply. If you want to see our 3-month forecast on upcoming projects, you can go to Google and type in St. Louis County Department of Transportation and Public Works and go midway down on our page and click contract opportunities. If you happen to type it in wrong or you're not getting to the St. Louis County's website, we do have a new website address in case you haven't gotten on there in a while. It's stlouiscountymo.gov, so that's STLOUIS countymo.gov. And when you click on departments, you'll find ours, and the contracting opportunities button would be halfway down. So I don't know if there's any questions. I will say both the cone of silence information is on the county website, as is the MWBE ordinance information. If anyone's interested in learning more about the MWBE ordinance, if you're not familiar with the requirements for MBE firms, which is 24%, and women business enterprises, which is 9.5% for construction contracts, you can certainly get that information. It's I'll give you a few clicks because it's a little bit buried, but if you go to the county website that I gave you and click on government, then the county council, then ordinances, go to Title I, and in Chapter 107.071, you will be able to find the MWBE ordinance. It's in the purchasing code. And if you don't understand or new to St. Louis County and you're not sure what the cone of silence is that I just mentioned and that we talked about, your projects that are in solicitation, we cannot speak to you about, and you cannot ask questions about except through specific channels and to specific people. You can go on the county website for that as well. Click on administration and click on the button request for bids and proposals, and you will have access to the ordinance and you can read what the cone of silence is all about. And again, those are modifications to the purchasing code in Chapter 107. So with that, I am done unless there's other questions.
And I'd like to announce to everybody that we do have an MWBE forum scheduled for next Monday. The public announcement should be going up very soon. So please check the county website and watch out for that if you're interested.
Okay, and there was one question, Stephanie. Were there any projects that the county put on hold due to COVID that have not let yet? Is there any still kind of lingering out there, or has everything been awarded?
I don't believe so. Matt, do you want to?
Well, there are a
Go ahead,
number
Joe.
of projects that are COVID delays. If you notice the subdivision work, those projects are titled 2020. Those projects were scheduled to be released last year, but due to COVID, those were delayed. We had numerous scheduled delays, but everything that's on the work plan for this year was presented in the slides.
Okay, great. And with that, I don't see any other questions. So you guys also get somewhat of a free pass. No crazy questions that I see coming up. So
Great.
again, we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but thank you all very much for attending, and thank you for your presentation. Look forward to having you again next year. And again, if if you have any questions for St. Louis County that maybe you just didn't feel comfortable with asking on this presentation, feel free to email those at leah@stl.org.